focused and fearless. Here's everything you need to know this rush hour of May 31st, Friday. I'm Riza Diaz. We begin today's rush with the Canadian garbage now all set to be returned to the North American country. Now to give us an update, let's bring in Shaila Francisco, who's reporting live from Subic. Shaila, we heard that the trash was supposed to be departing the country as early as 5 o'clock in the morning today, but what have seemed to have caused a delay?
Riza, it took a while to load all 237 cargo aboard MV Bavaria, but anytime now, the vessel is set to leave Subic Bay. What you see behind me are two tugboats preparing for the departure of the vessel. With it are 69 containers of Canadian trash, mostly household waste, including diapers and plastic, that had been sitting in the Philippine ports for 6 years. The loading of these containers took 6 hours and finished past 3 in the morning. But the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority says the vessel had to carry 168 more cargo for other shipments before it can finally set sail. MV Bavaria is set to make a stop at Kaohsiung, Taiwan before it arrives in Canada on June 22. Meanwhile, environmental groups yesterday went near the vessel on board small boats to display a sign delivering the strong message of protest. The country is not a dump site. For these groups, shipping the tons of garbage back to Canada brings hope that developed countries will stop waste trade and avoid misdeclaring these items. For now, environmental groups will still go after importers of the Canadian trash, with 2 cases still pending before the regional trial courts. It is also asking the Customs Bureau to reveal where 8 other containers of Canadian trash have been dumped, as only 26 out of the 34 containers allegedly disposed of locally were confirmed to have been dumped at a landfill in Tarlac. There are a total of 103 containers of trash that arrived in batches beginning 2013. Riza, as the country bids goodbye to the Canadian trash, the environmental groups are asking the government to issue an order banning waste imports to prevent similar incidents like this from happening again. Riza?
Thank you. That was Shaila Francisco reporting live from Subic. Meanwhile, here are the biggest stories from the dailies. The Philippine Star reports that the Commission on Audit is calling out the Office of the Civil Defense, or the OCD. That's for its supposed failure to utilize funds amounting to almost 78 million pesos that were received from donors for the victims of Super Typhoon Yolanda and the Marawi siege. COA's annual audit shows that OCD only utilized 69% of the 135 million pesos worth of donations from local and foreign sources for the victims of Yolanda. Meanwhile, it gets worse for the funds donated for the Marawi siege victims, because COA's findings show that only 10,000 pesos was utilized out of the 36 million pesos OCD received in donations. This coming from the Free Man. Presidential Assistant for the Visayas, Michael Dino, is backing the proposal of a Davao-based firm to construct a monorail system instead of a light rail transit system for Metro Cebu. Dino says the monorail is the right solution to Cebu's ongoing traffic problem, noting that a monorail is faster to build, consumes less footprint, and has the carrying capacity for Cebu's needs. Now, the official adds that while this is not classified as a light rail transit, heavy monorails can meet the capacity of an LRT. And the Philippine Star ngayon is headlining the hike to 100 pesos per cigarette pack if the 60 peso increase proposed in the Senate's sin tax bill will be approved. Senator Win Gatchalian assures that the public that the measure will be passed before their session ends on Tuesday next week. But the senator notes that different price increases were proposed for the bill. Online shopping, artificial intelligence, cloud services. These are just some of the many trends today, and how businesses or business leaders put it as disruptors. Let's get some insights from the country's top innovators and entrepreneurs on this. Bim Santos will tell us more.
The future of business is now, and businesses must adopt or die. This was the overarching message at the annual Business World Economic Forum. In his keynote, Ayala Corp Chair Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala talked about next wave disruptions and opportunities. Ayala cited a study stating the shrinking lifespans of top companies, that ranged from over 60 years in the 1960s to just 24 years in 2016 and is set to shrink further to just 12 years in 2027. Ayala stressed the need for companies to transform amid fast-growing technological changes and to harness innovation to further growth.
The tricky thing, I guess, is that the change and the way it's moving at the pace it is really dismantling many institutions that are not nimble enough to adapt. So now more than ever, in many ways, all of us in the business environment, the private sector can no longer be reactive, and companies that don't innovate really run the risk of becoming irrelevant in our market.
According to McKinsey & Company, 6 out of 10 jobs right now have about 30% of activities that can be automated, speaking to the extent of impact of automation. But Management Association of the Philippines President Riza Mantarig said jobs could also be gained if employers and employees invest in upskilling. In addition, the country's educational system also needs to be enhanced in light of the fast-growing changes and demands in the private space.
Just like in the previous industrial revolutions, many jobs were lost, but more were created.
The CEO of Lazada Philippines, Ray Alimurong, also talked about next-generation retail. He noted that though brick-and-mortar stores in other countries are closing one by one, physical stores remain healthy in the Philippines and is in fact thriving due to the traditional needs of developing cities. Alimurong noted that offline retail will never go away, but rather bland offline retail or retail that does not adapt will be eaten up by the future. Moving forward, the e-commerce market still has large untapped potential, considering that only 40% of Filipinos have electronic form of payment.
Philippines retail is still in its early stage. Tier 2, Tier 3 cities still need traditional retail. I don't think offline retail will ever go away. It is bland offline retail experiences that are in trouble.
But though there was much talk about machines and harnessing technology, the future at large also remains to be about people and how companies need to invest in their workforce to stake their claim in the technology-driven future. Bim Santos, we are One News.
Now, just a few days till it's back to school, the DepEd says there appears to be some problems. Patricia Mangune will tell us more.
DepEd's Oplan Balik Eskwela is now on its 4th day, and the DepEd Command Center has already received more than 500 queries, most of which were sent through DepEd's Facebook page. But some parents and students still prefer to personally voice their concerns. Edward Navarro was looking for an accredited school for his daughter with a curriculum for homeschooled students. He was referred to the DepEd Region 4A office, which has jurisdiction over Taytay, Rizal.
Gusto kong mag-homeschool yung anak ko para para makabanding ko siya ng matagal. Dahil transfer siya from other schools. So ngayon lang sa akin titira yung anak ko, kaya yun, mas gusto ko siyang mag-homeschool.
Meanwhile, Samantha Dejos asked if her incoming grade 12 student still qualifies for a tuition voucher from DepEd.
Medyo na-confused lang kasi ako dahil ayun nga, lately narinig ko na merong SS, yung senior high voucher, plan yung DepEd. Since meron kasi akong mga senior high, so in-inquire ko kasi grade 11 na siya, pero incoming grade 12. So kala ko baka pwede pa siyang mag-avail noon, since dapat lang daw incoming grade 11. So yun, at least na-clear sa akin.
Most of the queries received by DepEd involve senior high school enrollment and the voucher system, which grants up to 22,500 pesos in tuition fees to eligible students.
Nagtatanong lang sila, una, bukas na ba? Ano ba yung mga sasubmit? Nakalagay naman yan doon sa ating website, no? Kasi ang inuuna natin dito, yung nangangailangan.
DepEd says their command center is open until June 7 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they are taking inquiries via email, hotline, or social media. DepEd expects 27 million enrollees in both public and private schools for the incoming school year. For News 5, Patricia Mangune, we are One News.
Here are the other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. President Duterte has hinted that he is open to having incumbent Senator J.V. Ejercito as part of his cabinet after the lawmaker lost his re-election bid in this year's election. In his speech before the Filipino community in Japan, Duterte says if there is an open spot in the cabinet, Ejercito would make a good addition. Ejercito has earlier said he was open to accepting the post should it be offered to him. Meanwhile, Duterte also gave the go signal for the government to auction the jewelry collection seized from the former First Lady Imelda Marcos. The jewelry, valued somewhere between 700 million to $1 billion pesos by auction houses, were seized from the former dictator Ferdinand Marcos and his family as they fled Malacanang at the height of the 1986 People Power Revolution. While Duterte has yet to issue a formal order, Pala says the president wants the proceeds to go to the people. All right, keep it here on One News channel to stay in the loop with today's headlines. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.